is that as a resident in this area, I have received in all the neighbors in this area of 1,000 homes have not received any public notice or any opportunity for public comment. Now that is a responsibility at some level, and we have not received that. So I support the recommendations of the sunset recommendations of Public Citizen and Lone Star Chapter of the Sierra Club and the Alliance for a Clean Texas. And please take away that chill from my heart. Thank you.
David Gray, be followed by Marlon Brooks.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm David Gray from McConnell, Dallas, Texas. Thanks to our council for being here tonight. You're very patient. We really appreciate you listening to us. I'm just going to make a few quick points about the Railroad Commission and the sunset process. I'm not as familiar with this commission, but I would like to say that it seems to me that more public information made available to people might help allay some of the uncertainties, some of the unknowns, some of the concerns that come about from all this activity. And, you know, the state is facing an incredible budget deficit next year. It seems only natural that violators should pay the full costs for these violations in the matter of having to meet the compliance and any kind of mitigation necessary. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer that the agency should really essentially be self-funding. You know, I don't know why that's not the case. Shale, as you heard tonight, the shale drilling is a big deal tonight in this area. It's coming to Dallas, and communities have been scrambling for years. Each community trying to come together with its own permitting process, its own regulation. There's a lot of questions about the fluids that are being used for fracking. This is a national issue. This is the kind of thing that seems to me to cry out for additional regulation. And certainly, as it moves across the state, an even more important issue. It seems to me that, I'm just going to say this, that, you know, over the years, I've heard numerous cases where citizens have gone to the administrative courts, they've made reasonable arguments, you know, they've gotten essentially a decision from the judges in their favor, and just only to be overturned at the highest levels. This is really unfortunate, in my opinion. And you know, you guys are here. I know you want to do what's right for the people. You're our representatives. I mean, that's why we elected you. So it seems like, you know, our new majority in the House is threatening to subpoena administrative executives and department heads and other things for interrogations of some sort. You know, where can we find the legislative oversight for some of these gross injustices, if you will, or non-performance in terms of an agency like this? Where can the people go when there's a real problem like this, a systematic problem? Is there no way that we can't have legislative oversight to try to do it? That's my question.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
I think your points were all well made. The interesting thing about this is at the same time that we're hearing these complaints tonight, and I have no reason to believe they're anything but valid. The public just by an overwhelming margin has reelected the administration in Austin that's been there for 10 years and will now be there for 4 more. And so you have to wonder, do you blame government and these agencies, or do you blame your fellow voters across the state? I think that what's important is what you're doing tonight and what you'll have to continue to do in the legislature's session. First off, it's a sacrifice to be in a place like this tonight, well into the evening, but it's important. It's important to reach out to as many legislators from both parties as you can. I think that it's a mistake to believe that one party cares about the environment and the other one doesn't. What sometimes happens, and what can appear as not caring, is just not having adequate information, and truthfully, not in the part of the political party, not taking the initiative to gather more information. And I think that as the partisanship has shifted considerably in the Texas House, as an example, based on this last week's election, The job ahead is to take those new members and not just assume that because they're of a particular party, they're not going to be friendly, but make them friendly. I mean, when I listen to you all tonight, you tell very compelling arguments. I mean, I've taken, one page full of notes and I'm starting on the second page. I mean, I know these aren't made up issues. I mean, I know you're all coming and speaking fact, the truth. And I think that's just the process. You have to go now and educate, particularly with 32 new House members? Yeah, you have to go and educate these people and make them understand that these are very real issues. If they can only imagine what it would be like to live in the very communities that you're going to live in. But I applaud you for being here. Just know that it's not a single battle. It's a war. And the most difficult thing I think for activists of all sorts to understand, and there are activists for almost every issue out there, believe me. Whether it's a conservative issue, a progressive issue, there are activists all on both sides. The biggest difficulty we sometimes have is to explain to people that when the legislature is in session, it's your opportunity, and sometimes you'll prevail, sometimes you won't. But that doesn't mean that the battle is or that the war is over.
I just want to, I wasn't making a partisan.
No. I think the remarks are very good.
I was only suggesting that maybe there's a place for a legislative oversight over some of the executive authorities in this situation.
Yeah, I didn't take your remarks to mean that at all. I thought your remarks were very good, and I think your recommendation, and we'll look at these various specific sunset recommendations that will be released here in and through the month of December, and see how we can do something like that. I think that's a very good idea.
Molly, we're going to ask you your problem by Jeannie Lane.
Can I respond a little
Excuse me, Representative Byrne.
Theoretically, the way it's set up, each committee of the House and the Senate has legislative oversight over various agencies. I'm on the Environmental Reg Committee of the Texas House of Representatives. In theory, we have legislative oversight over the TCEQ. Can I say that any legislative committee, House or Senate, has at any time in the last 25 years done a particularly good job of providing that legislative oversight? I won't say that. From time to time, an individual chairman, this one for example, has taken on the agency during the interim and trying to exercise that legislative oversight. Part of the problem with the way state government in Texas is set up is we have huge permanent bureaucracies and very, very theoretically part-time legislators to try to get them to be more responsive to the public at large. There's some fundamental flaws in government, the way it's set up. And, if you go back to the other part that the senator spoke to, it's not the voters that I complain about, it's the non-voters. In my legislative district, only 25% of the registered voters bothered to vote in the general election. That's 75% of the people that are eligible to vote that don't bother to participate. I know you all do. You wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't. But my real problem is not with the voters and the decisions they make. It's with the fact that if you look at the city councilman, probably fewer than 10% of the eligible voters bothered to vote in his city council race. That's the problem.
Molly, your comment?
There's so much that I could say but don't have time to about my disappointment in the TCEQ and the Railroad Commission and their ability to, or interest in protecting citizens in our communities. I know that there are some very good public servants who are with those agencies, and my complaint is not with them, it's with the inability to do what needs to be done. The bottom line of that is to make sure that citizens in our communities are protected. And I just want to say that I agree with these recommendations that I've seen from the Alliance for Clean Texas and the Sierra Club Public Citizen. I won't read them, but I do want to say some things beyond that. As a landowner who has had to deal with the Railroad Commission and their inability to protect property rights of landowners. We've had drilling on my family's property out in South Texas since they were first started with the old wooden derricks. It's still going on today, much less. But we have problems still maybe their inability to be able to go after some of these drillers and operators, especially as the production drops, and they leave huge messes behind that still not cleaned up decades later, big messes. And I don't know if there's not enough money that they have to put up so that there's some way to remediate when they go out of business and you're left with a mess. You know, what can you do? So something needs to be done about that. And then I also am very concerned about the inaccurate location of gas pipelines. It's been a problem. There have been fatalities because of that. And I was looking at the list of the problems with this one particular pipeline operator and saw that there's a long history of inaccurate location of their pipelines, including in Woodsboro, the little hometown that I'm from. It's a little place, and they've had a problem with them. And they just keep doing business. It's another example we've heard of people who are in business who continue to cause problems. Something needs to be done about these bad operators. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Lehman, and I'm with Dallas Citizens for a Temporary Moratorium on Gas Drilling. And I just wanted to respond to a couple of comments about drilling coming to Dallas. We actually just won a really important vote before the city planning commission. We won by 1 point because we had over 100 people show up in the audience, and we asked who is opposed to this permit. All those people stood up. And so it's important that everybody participate. There's going to be another meeting next Thursday for the second permit, and it will be going before the city council in December. And so if I have anything to say about it, it won't be coming to Dallas. I'm willing to go door to door to every house in my neighborhood if I have to, because my neighborhood is one area where one of those wells is being considered, and I have an autoimmune condition where I would have to move. I've lived in Dallas and into the state of Texas for 37 years, and how sad is that I'm actually considering moving because of this. And I want to just, I was prepared to read my remarks that I gave at the last state planning commission because, to be honest, I'm tired. I've worked for several hours a day for 2 months on this issue, doing the job that my representatives should have been doing at the federal, state, and city level. And instead, I'm going to do it. I'm totally out of my comfort zone. I'm not a public speaker, but I'm showing up and I'm speaking at these meetings. And I want to first thank the panel for being so thoughtful, and clearly you're here because this is something you're concerned about. So I'd like to, instead of reading what I wrote, try to respond to some of the things that were said. For the first time ever, first time recently now, the drilling, the gas drilling companies can now no longer lie and say there's no documented evidence of water contamination. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection has now come out and unequivocally said that the water supply there was contaminated by gas drilling. They released an open letter to the city of Dimmitt, Pennsylvania, and now the drilling company that was responsible for that is refusing to pay for the new water main to be built, which is going to be several $1 million, and it's going to end up in court now. And how sad is that not only did they contaminate the water supply, they're not willing to correct it, and it has to end up in litigation for something to be done about that. And I'd like to respond to what possible regulations should have been in effect. 2 things. One, somebody mentioned the toxic chemicals, super drilling chemicals being used for fracking. And why not look into requiring less toxic chemicals, 1, and 2, why not have them put tracers in their chemicals to where once they do contaminate a water well, they can't lie and say that they haven't. And that's one of the ways that they've